Hey man, you're listening to the Chris Carnage Show. Hey fans, this is the one and only Chris Carnage here for another episode of the Chris Carnage Show. And I am not alone, I have people with me. It's going to be an exciting time because, hey, what else we got better to do than do a podcast? So here we are. But at the end of the day, though, to make sure that you follow all things Chris Carnage, you go over to facebook.com/Chris Carnage Official and give me a like and a follow there. Go to Twitter @Planet Carnage and give me a good old follow. And hop on over to Instagram @The Chris Carnage and give me a follow there. And of course, you can always check out Podcast City Network. All you have to do is go on to Facebook /Podcast City Network, Twitter @Podcast City Net, YouTube just search Podcast City Network, of course on Twitch @Podcast City Network, and of course podcastcity.net. Definitely check out all the great stuff we have there. But our show today, I have none other than with me my co-host for this, well, I guess I can't say evening because we're in the middle of the day right now. Thanks, coronavirus. But I have none other than Everett Lee of The Everett Lee Show.
Pre-recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, throws out there, Chris.
Thank God.
Nothing much. Just having too much fun because, quarantine. It's a quarantine on wine mixer, man.
Skynet's taking over, man. Skynet's taking over.
Skynet's taking over.
You introduced me, right?
Yeah, I said your name in the show, and yeah, I got you covered.
All right, cool. It's great to be here, Chris, on this nice sunny day here in Daytona Beach, and I'm ready to rock out on another episode of Chris Carnage Show.
Yay! It's been a while, man. I think it's been all of like a week, so man, that's a long time. So we'll definitely see what kind of trouble we can get into. But we have some guests with us. And it wasn't just Everett Lee. I'm sorry. I brought more today. It's exciting. But we have our guests none other than, oh my gosh, I can't contain myself. Todd Staruch and Tom Ryan. How are you guys doing? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, we're doing good. We're doing great. Thanks, Chris.
America.
As we sit here in quarantine, which we probably should have been quarantined a long time ago.
I mean, we're just being honest here. Oh my goodness, but
exactly.
It's been fun though, I guess, because I haven't gotten sick, so I mean that's a plus, right? And I've been able to enjoy time with family and work on the network and get just badgered with only 8 million questions every 10 minutes by children, so it all just works. Somehow.
Yeah.
But anyways, but how are you guys weathering so far?
Todd?
I'm okay. I work from home a lot anyway, so the fact that we're on a work from home order, my daily life hasn't really changed all that much, as far as a normal day.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of is what it is. I'm getting a little stir crazy, but people here in New Jersey seem to be laboring under this delusion that we're actually in quarantine. You can leave your house, you can go for a walk, you can walk your dog, you can, go bike riding with your kid or whatever, so there's things that you can do. If the weather's nice, I go for a walk every night, so there's things that you can do to keep yourself occupied.
Definitely.
For me, it's like, we were pretty lucky because the Sunday before this all really broke and really started becoming more of a, I guess, kind of a national situation. We had just finished shooting a new short film that we're working on called Soothsayer. and it was the second day of shooting, and I mean, when we were suddenly on self-quarantine, I'm like about a week and a half into it, and saying, man, thank God I've got like this film done, and I just worked on editing. I've been working on editing the film. I'm also I'm composing the music for the film and scoring it. So I was working on that. I was also doing the visual effects, some of the post effects for it. So it sounds terrible, but like it's almost like the timing couldn't be better. It's really like I'm so glad I had this completed in time to have something to work on, because if I didn't, I think I'd probably be reacting a little bit differently, but that ate up so much of my time. On top of that, both my kids are young. They're 8 and 11. They're both home. I was helping them with their schoolwork, kind of getting, yeah. So they're, too bad.
They're being held back.
Yeah. No, but I mean, there was a big learning curve too, to them learning from home, like all these links that they had to check out and Google Classrooms and all that stuff. It's something that we'd never really utilized as a necessity before. It was stuff that they kind of play with as homework once in a while. But so that was a little bit challenging, but luckily for me, I have my family to keep me company. Yeah, I guess it's kind of crazy to be locked in the house together for weeks on end, but that's kind of what I imagined would happen when I got married and had kids anyway. So I think I could deal with it. No, but the family's been great, and we've been dealing with it, like not with a sense of panic, but just with a sense of understanding, like, hey, let's just do what we're told and get through this, and kind of like wait for things to play out instead of panicking and overstocking on toilet paper or anything like that. Life has been pretty normal. It's actually been nice to have my wife's working from home too, and she got that whole thing set up weeks ago. So it's kind of been nice to have her at home too with the kids, just so that she sees what I go through with these maniacs every day.
What he's not telling you is that his wife begged her job not to make her work from home. She's like, listen, I'll wear a mask, wear a welder's helmet, I don't care.
Hazmat suit, something. Oh man, but it's always good to be able to take advantage of that time you get with family. I'm just waiting for my wife to come in and start dousing me with sardine oil at any moment, honestly, because it's been pretty crazy. Not a lot of people realize
whatever you guys are into is
that's your thing, man. That's cool. No judgment.
But what's been difficult for me is that I was so smart, and I've had these last about 2.5, 3 weeks off. I got furloughed as well. But I worked 3 days before that happened, and those 3 days I was just coming off a 10-day vacation, and it was a staycation at that, so I was already at home. So it's like, I felt like I took, a good 10 days to prep for this without knowing it, and then, now I'm thrust into it. So, here we are.
Cool. Here we are.
Oh my goodness. But you know what? There's some exciting stuff that you guys have worked on recently, not too long ago, I should say. And one of the big things that you guys are really known for is the Theater of Terror. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of meandered over onto Amazon, and I was honestly pleasantly surprised with how well it looked and everything, and I was able to check out just a little bit. Didn't get to watch the whole thing. Checked out a little bit of it, but still has a 4.7 out of 5-star rating on Amazon, and now you can get it on DVD. What can you tell us about Theater of Terror and the kind of success you're actually seeing with it right
now? Well, the Theater of Terror was, the biggest project that I'd personally ever worked on. I think it was the first film that Todd ever helped produce, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So it was, just on a personal level, it was very rewarding and just a great accomplishment to get this anthology done. Because when Todd can attest to, like when we were first in concept and development for this thing, we kind of built the movie in stages where we shot each individual short film with the thought that this might be the last film in the anthology that we were able to afford to shoot. We raised funds on Indiegogo, and so it was just kind of one of those things where we really felt that it was a great accomplishment that we got through it and we got it complete. Then the next step, of course, was the film festivals and the premiere that we held and selling the DVDs. The fans were awesome. Indie horror fans are great. They really supported us. Great turnout to the premiere. Great support for each individual short when we screen them at several film festivals: Garden State Film Festival, New Jersey HorrorCon, Brightside Tavern, just to name a few. We won a few awards for the individual shorts, which was great. And then the film in and of itself, the feature film, won some awards, which was great. We got distribution through Bayview Entertainment for the film. It's now currently available on Vimeo with some more streaming platforms to be announced. The coronavirus incident has kind of kept everybody out of the office, so there's a lot of stuff that's not really being transmitted right now. But the DVD sales are going great. Our DVD sales, when we were selling them through the website, went really well for us. So just overall, it's just been a great sense of accomplishment on that film. I'm not going to pretend that it made any of us famous, but I think that it really, translates the kind of level of work that we're doing now, and the reception is growing, our audience is growing. I think our footprint in the horror community is growing, and that's what really inspired us to move into the sequel anthology, Return to the Theater of Terror. But we'll talk about that later. But I'll let Todd touch on the first film. But yeah, that's what it's delivered for me so far.
Yeah, so to piggyback on what Tom just said, it was my first gig as a producer, and I remember when Tom asked me if I would come on board, I'm like, you had me at anthology. I'm a huge fan of anthology style films. Anthologies are what got me into horror, so I was totally down, and I learned a tremendous amount, about what goes into a feature film, especially a film like this. I think, and I don't remember the exact number, but I think once you counted in all the actors, all the crew, all the support, extras or whatever, we ended up working, I think, with almost 200 people throughout the course of the whole production, which was really amazing. And then just the reception has been really good. A lot of positive feedback. So it was a great experience for me. And now, as Tom said, we're headlong into the sequel.
That is definitely awesome. Definitely awesome stuff. Now, with the sequel,
Nice.
Obviously you guys were already a little bit into production before all this hit. What can we expect from the Return of Theater of Terror? And I know with all the coronavirus, it makes things hard. If there's any kind of a timetable or anything that you guys hope to have an expectation to try and get it out.
Yeah, so like I previously mentioned, we got the first short film out right before this broke, and so post-production has kind of moved at the same pace that it would have. As far as the stuff that we'd probably be working on right now for the next short film is we'd probably be doing a little bit of location scouting. I don't know just how much that's been postponed right now. I know that we are under quarantine, self-quarantine has been recommended till April 30th. And I also strongly feel that by the end of April, we're going to really see a loosening of the restrictions, at least on businesses. I think they're really going to let people go back to work to a certain extent, or that no more of the non-essential business recommendations. I hope this is all just speculation.
Right.
But if that kind of plays out, and things are starting to look good again, as far as, hey, we can get out there and start seeing places again. I mean, you can't visit a location if they're shut down or if they're afraid to have people coming in and out of the location. So I'm hoping that we can get back into that. As of now, we're kind of working on pre-production. So just to be completely honest, the coronavirus hasn't seriously affected our production on a scale that we could recognize right now. I mean, just as of now, it hasn't. We're in the early stages of pre-production for the next short. It's going to involve a lot of practical effects that we're kind of developing right now, and I'm talking to special effects artist Michael Scardilla, who is also involved in the Theater of Terror. He's going to be returning for this one, so we've been discussing some concepts, and we're kind of in that really early stage of development for that. So hopefully that will eat up a lot of this time that we are forced to not be able to do location scouting, or we're kind of restricted from being able to hold production meetings or read-throughs with the cast and crew. I mean, we could do it on Zoom and everything, but I just don't feel that there's that need right now to work around anything. I think everything's kind of progressing on a good pace so far. So thankfully, it hasn't really affected the production that much. as of yet.
That's definitely good. Definitely good.
Nice.
And with that, I know with the Return of Theater of Terror, you said you obviously have it in shorts. How many shorts do you plan on having as a whole for the Return to the Theater of Terror?
So similar to the first film, there's going to be 4 shorts.
Okay.
And maybe Todd could tell you a little bit of, about why.
Yeah, so when we kind of wound down on Theater of Terror, and we got distribution, and it kind of had run its course from that respect. So we were thinking about our next project and what we wanted it to be, and we couldn't. It was just it's hard to decide like what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We thought about just doing a short, and it's really hard to market a short film. You can go through the festival run or whatever, and you can have great success, but to try to make some money, it's questionable. So we said, look, Tom had some great ideas for stories, and I had written a script that I had intended was going to be my first attempt at writing and directing a film. And I was looking at some of the cost and some of the things that were going to go into it. And Tom said, hey, look, I like this story you wrote. Do you mind if I kind of look at it and make some changes, and let's adapt it as one of the stories into the next anthology?
Right.
And this way you'll have more resources, and we can make it part of a larger production.
Hmm.
And I thought that was great. So I'm very proud that I'll have co-written one of the 4 stories on this one.
Nice.
That one's called Splinter, and it's about, I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say it's like a shaman type ancient curse that comes into modern day.
Nice.
And we have another, Tom mentioned our first time travel / film noir story, Soothsayer. We've got a pretty cool sci-fi entry coming up called Robot. And then one called Haunted that tackles ghosts and the paranormal, which is something we didn't go for the first time. So
Yeah.
I think we have 4 really cool stories again this time, and that's why we decided to do an anthology. We were like, we had success with it the first time. We think we're good at it, so let's do it again.
Yeah, can't
Nice.
go wrong with that. Can't go wrong with that at all. But with the kind of production you had that went into the Theater of Terror and now going into the Return to the Theater of Terror, well, what kind of differences in approach that you've done with past projects with your production from, say, doing Theater of Terror to the Return of Theater of Terror?
No, honestly, not much of a change, man. We got a pretty tight knit group of cast, and so the approach worked so well the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what actually inspired us to do a follow-up anthology, because number one, the first production, we got to work with a ton of different actors. We got to work with different cinematographers, different special effects artists, tons of different locations. So shooting it as an anthology, as a feature as a whole, it was just such a great experience, because this was such a diverse amount of people and locations that we got to enjoy while making the film.
Mm-hmm.
And so many different memories that we got to create, different experiences from each film.
Sure.
What really underlines all that is the fact that we felt that, the 4 stories that we had written for the first were really well received. And what we loved is that as an audience overall, everyone just had different opinions of what their favorite story was. So it kind of made us feel that we'd achieved what we set out to do, which was have something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Have a little something for everybody. Some people like werewolves, some people like aliens, some people like, scary dolls, some people like worms or giant bugs or anything. So stuff like that, we felt it was a great mix. And so when we, like Todd explained, when we were moving on to the next project, we kind of felt like, well, if it's not broke, why fix it? Like, let's deliver. I had some more stories to tell. I loved doing Abducted, so I wanted to do another sci-fi story, and I believe with Robot, we have a really strong sci-fi story. Similar to Bookworm, I wanted to do something again that was kind of like a body horror or like a grotesque, type of practical effects film. And that's why when I read Todd's script for Splinter, I felt like this is it. This is the film where we get to like do some really crazy visuals again with practical effects and have fun with a cool, campy horror story. And then when it
Nice.
came to Soothsayer, now as Todd had mentioned, Soothsayer is a very retro type of a piece. It's heavily influenced by the Twilight Zone and the Universal monster movies. We open it up. It takes place in a castle, and it's very much like we want to get back to that real kind of like classic storytelling, where we just feel that the story is so strong, but it's in black and white. The acting is great. It's very retro. Once you guys see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we do throw a little bit of a flair for the modern in it, which I don't believe affects the homage at all. I really believe it's just kind of like a little highlight. So that's very cool. And then Haunted is our paranormal story, and like Todd said, we're thinking, what didn't we touch on yet? And so we wanted to touch on a ghost story. But as is, well known from Theater of Terror, we like to throw a little twist into the mix. So I just say, everything I tell you, take it with a grain of salt, because there are little things that we like to pull the rug out from the viewer. But we are just excited about the diversity, and just 4 brand new stories you get to work with, a whole new slew of actors we're going to get to work with. Most of the films have been fully cast already. And so now we're kind of in the location phase. We found some, we still need some, but yeah, right. We're amped up. We're amped up about following this first one up. And so, no, we haven't changed anything about our formula. We're doing it the same way. Did that answer your question? Should I just skip to the end on that?
Well, like I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, just use what works. But the big thing is, though, you guys have done a lot of different projects together, but there's one I've been seeing little watch parties popping up recently about that you both worked on, and that was the Bonds.
With Todd and the Goat?
Whoa. Now we just went a whole other direction. Not that one.
Listen, it was a sheep. Okay?
Gotcha.
Right,
being such a bad boy. Anyways.
Listen, we're in quarantine, man, and last I checked, sheep can't get it, so you do what you gotta do.
I mean, hey, man, whatever floats your boat and carries it down the river. But the other project you guys work on, the Bonds of Friendship. What can you guys tell me about this? This is definitely a lot different from what you usually do.
Well, so how that came about. Just not for any other reason than to just like kind of draw the line. So the Bonds of Friendship was not under the Theater of Terror banner. So it wasn't part of what the things I'm working on with Tom. So like I had said, Splinter was going to be my first attempt at writing and directing my own film. I have been involved in indie film for a long time now, and I said, I think I want to give this a try. And then Tom said, well, let's wrap it into the anthology. So that was going to kind of push it back a little bit. And I still kind of had the itch to direct. And then one day, like this idea for this story just popped into my head. And I called Tom and I said, listen, I have this idea. I'm going to send you the script. I want to do like a quick and dirty little kind of film noir crime thriller. But let's do it the best that we can, like small crew, one location, 2 actors, but let's do the best job that we can. So I approached a mutual friend, Mark Boutros, who agreed to shoot it. We got a very good friend and a well-known indie horror actress, Heather Drew, to do some voiceover. And that was basically it. A boom operator and a production assistant. That's it. 5 people filming in my house. And I think everybody did a fantastic job. It's just a gritty kind of little thriller, and it's so far the reception has been really good. And I have a newfound respect for people who write who direct and act in their own films because that was hard. And this is only like a 7-minute film, so people who act and write and direct and act in like a feature, I'm like, holy shit. So I do have a newfound respect. And And again, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about lighting and sound and direction and acting, you know. So it was just a great experience, and I'm grateful that Tom and Mark and Heather and everybody else who were involved. That they all did a fantastic job, and so far it's gone over really well.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is honestly
Nice.
awesome. Now, Tom, what were
I
your
got the-
thoughts on this project?
Well, it was a lot of fun for me because number one, I'm usually writing and directing and worrying about all the details. And so when Todd approached me and says, "Hey man, I made this little short that I kind of want to do this micro short thing that I think will be fun, and it's just going to be you and me and a couple of guys, and it's guerrilla filmmaking at its best. You know, it's 9 minutes long. We shot the entire film in his kitchen. We had the props, we had the makeup and the blood effect. Everything was. We didn't have to go out and purchase a bunch of stuff. So it was quick and dirty. It was fun. We did
Like Tom's sexual encounters.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. The bonds of friendship, I think, have had more sexual innuendos during this part of the show than we've had the whole rest of this thing. So
It was originally called the bondage of friendship. But
oh my gosh.
Wow.
I did get to catch it. I did watch the watch party when it
Cool.
popped up, and I watched it along with everybody else, Tom and Todd, and wow, I didn't know where this was gonna go or what, and just Tom's acting and Todd, your acting, man, was just great. I loved it. And
thanks, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
for a great
Appreciate that.
9-minute short, man, that was great. And of course, I love how you throw in the twist, and you're like, wow, didn't see that coming. That was
Yeah.
like, wow, holy crap, man! It's just
Yeah.
the stuff that went along with it. And I was looking at the comments on the watch party, and just a lot of people commented on how the angles and the lighting and stuff, and it was great, just the feel of it, and I loved it. I can watch it again and again because it's great.
Thanks,
Great
man.
little short.
Oh,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. I appreciate that. And listen, I got to give credit. Like, as much as it kills me to give Tom credit for anything, but between him and Mark Boutros, I really did learn a lot. You know, it was my first attempt at directing, so I relied on them a lot to say, what do you think of this angle, and what do you think of this shot? You know, just to get their advice and experience. You know, you can't. A lot of people, even at the indie level, have big egos, and if you're going to learn and grow, you can't. You got to kind of let some of that go. You
Yeah.
know. But you also have to balance it, and at some point you have to say, no, this was my vision, and this is how I want it to go. I appreciate everyone's guidance, but this is the way we're going to do it. And I think we all work together really well. But we've all been friends for a long time now. We
Right.
know how each other work, you know.
Mhm.
So it wasn't that difficult, you know.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes it easier when you're in those kinds of situations for sure. But you guys are definitely some talented men, especially you, Tom, because I heard through the grapevine that you have a little side project called Vlad the Inhaler.
Yeah,
What can you tell us about
my yeah, it's my band. You know, it's not a chick band like that's all that Todd listens to. It's not that, you know, chick
It's
singing.
baby metal rocks.
Yeah. No, but yeah, Vlad is. I play bass and I sing in the band, and you know, unfortunately, I don't really have any current news about us. We've kind of been on hiatus for a while, but that's the history of this band. We started jamming in the early 1990s. Me and the drummer Jeff Mason, and the band has kind of been together and been on hiatus and gotten back together and been in different lineups over the years. But our last incarnation, I think the last album that we put out was in 2016, actually, unfortunately. But we have 2 albums out: Vlad the Inhaler, the Human Infection, and Vlad the Inhaler, the Aftermath. Both albums have 11 songs on them. You can pick them up from the Theater of Terror website, actually, or you can go to vladtheinhaler.com, and I believe that there are links on there too to get them. But yeah, music has been a passion of mine since I've been about 18 years old, probably earlier than that. I started playing at about 18. Started listening passionately to the radio in the bedroom on the floor, you know, listening to my grandma's little transistor radio. probably around the age of 16 years old or 15 years old, really started getting into music, pop music, rock music, my parents' music, just tons of music, and listened to it, love it, soaked it up.
Right.
But it's cool. It comes in handy. Like for this latest film, Soothsayer, I actually borrowed a keyboard from our sound mixer and just kind of sat down and played around and wanted to write some music. And, it's helpful. It helps when you're trying to score your own stuff, to have a little bit of background in it. So
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely can't
The
go
crazy
wrong with
thing is the other guys in the band made him pay royalties.
Can never escape the man, Oh,
That's
man.
right.
Nope.
That's right.
Oh man, but let's not forget. We can't forget Todd. Todd has his own little side project that I know he works out. It goes by the name of that the good old Grindhouse Cafe, man. I know you've seen do a lot of Grindhouse night film festivals and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of pictures. Definitely some interesting ones, but always entertaining. So, well, how was the last event though that you had before all of this insanity known as coronavirus?
Yeah, right. Like, so the last Grindhouse Nights Film Festival was on February 29th, and obviously, we at that point we had kind of heard of some kind of virus or something. At that point, it was kind of mostly contained to Asia and China.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of knew about it, but didn't really think anything of it. And then we had our event, and then bam, 2 weeks later, everything slammed into lockdown. So we managed to have our event, just in time. To my knowledge, nobody who attended the event is ill,
That's
so we're
good.
grateful for that.
Yes.
But yeah, so to toot our own horn a little bit, I think that, and in fact, Tom quoted this when we were talking the other day on the phone about it, and we kind of put on more of a spectacle than a film festival, So we do show a lot of indie horror films, but we have live entertainment throughout the day. We had some interesting burlesque performers. One of our performers, Nastia Nice, she did a self-suspension kind of bondage performance. And then this other act where she was putting needles in interesting places. And
Wow.
Todd
Yeah.
couldn't sit down for a week.
yeah. And she didn't even make me pay extra for that.
Wow.
Oh,
But yeah,
man.
so we really put on I think we put on a great show, and it's just a full day of just, entertainment. At the end of the day, it's all about the filmmakers and the performers. One of
Yes.
the things I pride myself on is from the beginning, I said that we are never going to give out awards at our festival.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but there's enough festivals that are juried that give out awards. We wanted it to be just a spirit of people watching the films that they love, with no competition or anything like that, just enjoying the day, interacting, networking with fellow filmmakers, and a lot of great relationships, I think, for both of us have come out of Grindhouse, just because people see what we do and that we take it seriously and want to work with us. So yeah, and as far as the pictures, those are only the ones that are for actual public consumption.
Oh, man. Nothing wrong with that. That's
Yeah.
okay, Do you have any of the sheep, though, that you keep off to the side? I couldn't help myself.
That's okay. Only if they're willing to wear leather.
Oh my goodness. Well, like we mentioned though, with coronavirus, everything has kind of come to a slamming halt in a lot of different ways. So with that, how's it impacted the indie filmmaking scene?
Well, there's a lot of filmmakers that have projects on hold. A lot of actors whose gigs have been postponed. Yeah, it's been harsh. I mean, this is prime time. People want to shoot. The weather's turning. You want to kind of get outside and get around. And there's a lot of projects that are just put on hold. Honestly, when you look at the big picture, there's probably a lot more important things that are being delayed and postponed, other than entertainment. Don't get me wrong. I mean, entertainment's very important. It's keeping everybody busy while they're locked up in their houses, right? For this entire time.
Yeah.
But I think it's the least of our worries that indie horror films are not getting made right now, because we're, everybody involved in these things, we're going to bounce back. We know it. We're going to get back to work on it. There's plenty of films in the works that are going to continue once we get back on our feet here and once we get out of the houses again. So it's but it's been extremely difficult. I mean, self-quarantining was important. Indie films, you got a lot of times you're packing a car with 5 or 6 people. You're all on set. You're on top of each other. I mean, I know I'm always no more than 2 or 3 inches over my cinematographer's back, my DP, looking through his lens to see what he sees.
DP being the operative 2 letters.
I was just about to say it.
What kind of podcast is this anyway?
I don't know. Someone let Todd on here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been hard, but I don't think in the big picture it's not going to mean much. We're going to bounce back. Films are going to come out. Indie filmmakers never had any money to begin with anyway, so it's not like the economy's going to hurt anything much.
It sounds like my indie wrestling career. I'm not even going to lie.
So one thing that I have seen is that, listen, people are nothing if not resilient. So there are quite a few film festivals that have gone virtual. The Queen's World Film Festival, I think that's the name of it. But our mutual friend Pat Devaney had a recent film of his screen there on a virtual festival. I've seen a lot of challenges by film festivals challenging people to shoot a film about the quarantine and just figure it out, like shoot it in your house or whatever and submit it. So creativity cannot be stifled,
Yes.
And people are finding a way. My friend Jay Proctor over in the UK, a filmmaker and writer, is working on a project. It's in conjunction with my podcast co-host Scott Colbert, and they're shooting a film completely remote. Scott's in Arizona, Jay is in the UK, and they're shooting a film with remote camera. Wow. So the creativity is always out there, and people do figure out a way to get their ideas out there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's always important, being able to try and find those ways to be able to collaborate. I know, especially with my sports show, Final Score, my host, me and Craig, we always are doing it in person, literally not sitting more than like 2 or 3 feet away from each other. But now we had to learn how to go remote for the first time just because of all this. So,
Sure.
And it's definitely been difficult, especially for others, especially in your case in the indie film scene. So it's definitely going to be difficult, but hopefully we can move past this quickly so we can all attempt to get back to life or some type of normalcy. Yeah. But we'll see what happens.
Yes.
A lot of uncertainty right now, so we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I know I listened to last episode of Imaginarium, Todd, and I heard your house got appraised. It got toilet papered, and the value went up on it.
Yeah, somebody took my house, and now all of a sudden it's been valued at $850,000. It's crazy.
Man, you better cash in now.
Right? Yeah, I heard the U.S. dollar is no longer based on gold; it's based on toilet paper.
So that's what's in the Federal Reserve. Knew it. Fort Knox, full of toilet paper.
Fort Knox, the gold is out on the front lawn.
Once you see that, you lose your shit.
Yeah, right. Figuratively and literally. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Man, always good stuff. We thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure.
For having us on.
Yeah, it was great, man.
At all. It's been great having you guys finally on for the first time on the Chris Carnage Show. I know you guys have been on the Everett Show a bunch of times, but now I got you. Yeah. So, with that being said, though, where can people find more out about Theater of Terror, the return to Theater of Terror, and everything you guys do?
So please go to www.theaterofterror.net. Theater is spelled Theatre. go to theaterterror.net. Subscribe to our mailing list. You'll get really cool updates about the film. You get sneak peek photos, behind the scenes stuff before the film comes out. Also, you can find us on Facebook at Theater of Terror. And you can find VladTheInhaler.com or Vlad the Inhaler at VladTheInhaler.com. You can find Theater Terror also on Twitter and on Instagram as Theater Terror. You can find me on Instagram. I'm sorry, on Twitter as Tom Terror 1.
Very nice, very nice.
Nice.
You, Todd?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, horrornerd.net. It has been painfully neglected for a little while. But,
just like your penis.
Whoa! Love it. Wait, he has the sheep, man. He has the sheep.
No. Listen, my right hand would beg to differ.
Oh my.
In fact, I shaved the hair off of it just before the show. So. HorrorNerd.net. You can find me on Facebook / The Real Horror Nerd. Same thing on Instagram and Twitter. I'm a social media whore. I'm not that hard to find. So I'm always there. And then as Everett Lee there mentioned, you can find the Imaginarium with Scott and Todd on podcastcity.net. And my other podcast, Ranting and Raving, at podcastcity.net. So the latest news has kind of inspired me to bring that one back a little bit. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. I
not
loved
that
it.
hard to find.
Definitely. And you know what,
Yes.
Everett Lee, don't you have an episode coming up?
Yes, I do. This coming Thursday on the Everett Lee Show, I'm going to have none other than host of Between the Ropes Radio, Ty Asbury. He'll be on the Everett Lee Show this Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, live on Podcast City Network's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Podcast City Network, and over on Facebook, Everett Lee Show on Facebook, live podcast that Thursday night coming up.
That's definitely going to be a good one. But there's something else coming up that me and you are both doing, and that's next Friday, April 17th, 9 p.m. We're going to be going live on Podcast City Network's Twitch channel that Everett had just mentioned, twitch.tv/Podcast City Network, and on Facebook at facebook.com/The Everett Lee, as we sit down and talk with Podcast City Network podcast host Dalton Burdett, the host of Movie Nights Podcast. And I tell you what, that's going to be a good show.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had him on the Everett Lee Show, and I'm looking forward to talking to him and getting his take. And I've really enjoyed today myself talking with Tom and Todd and getting their take on indie films and what's going on with how the coronavirus has affected it. I'm looking to hear Dalton's take on what's been going on too as well. So
Definitely.
great programming.
Oh yeah,
Awesome, man.
Definitely going to be good. And if you want to find things Chris Carnage, all you have to do is go on to Facebook /Chris Carnage Official, Twitter @Planet Carnage, and on Instagram @The Chris Carnage. And of course, you can also find me on podcastcity.net. Just go on and check out all the great stuff I have there. I think Tom Ryan is trying to attack his camera. I'm not sure. All I see is blur. How many have you had, sir?
I'm giving Todd the crown that he deserves.
Oh my goodness, I love it. We definitely got to do this again sometime. I ain't gonna lie.
It's fun, man. Lots of fun.
Yes,
Definitely. But again, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been episode 8
guys.
of the Chris Carnage Show. And you guys have yourself a good one. Try to hang in there, and we'll definitely see you on the other side.
All right, you too, man.
See you, man.
All right, awesome. So, again, thank you guys for watching. Definitely make sure to check out this episode and all the other episodes that I have of the Chris Carnage Show on podcastcity.net and on YouTube by searching Podcast City Network. Give a subscription and check out the playlist for the Chris Carnage Show. But until next time, I'm Chris Carnage. That was Everett Lee, Tom Ryan, Todd Staruch. We are making noise, but not anymore because we're out of here. Y'all have a great night. Podcast City Network.